Hello, everyone. Welcome back to DSP versus the Internet, episode 51 for February 11th, 2024. Super Bowl Sunday this year. And interestingly enough, we're now heading into the members Q&A portion of the show where I do a little bit of kind of lightning round answering of any questions that the super level members on this channel have submitted. And the first question this week is in regards to the Super Bowl. So let's jump right into it. Do you remember the first Super Bowl that you ever saw? How did your family and friends treat events like the Super Bowl growing up? My dad, I think, liked the NFL, but I don't think he actively watched it because much like me, he had a very busy adult life where he was working a lot. So he never really got to watch the games. So he wasn't into it. He wasn't a fan of any particular team or anything like that. We were aware of the Super Bowl. Sometimes we would watch it, but it wouldn't have any investment onto a team, winning or anything like that. When I was growing up, I was more of a fan of baseball than the NFL, and I was actually a fan of the New York Mets. I actually went to a couple baseball games with my parents, collected baseball cards and stuff like that for a while. But no, the NFL was never like a big thing in my household at all, okay? Now, in the 2000s, I was an adult in my 20s, and then a few of my friends were actually into the NFL. Actually, people who I knew from playing Street Fighter in Connecticut. And it used to be me and two of my friends, and then one of my friend's dads and his friend. We would get together and go to this bar, this pub-style bar, and get a table. And when the Super Bowl went on, we would sit there and drink beer and eat all kinds of cool food that we would order from the kitchen. And we would have a Super Bowl-like party at the pub, which is really fun to do, honestly. Have some beer with friends, and like, multiple generations. I mean, his dad and his dad's friend was there too, which was really cool. It was just neat to do that. And we did that, I want to say 3 or 4 years in a row. I remember there was the one year where the Mannings, Eli and Peyton were kind of like competing, the Colts versus the Giants, and who would be better that year. And I remember one of the years that one of them made it to the Super Bowl. But no, that was a cool time in my life. And that was the only time I was ever able to do it. I think that was when I had right after I graduated from college or university, as they call it in some countries. And I worked at the Wells Fargo job, which was a bank job, for like a year. And then after that, I worked at like Best Buy. Like basically, for like a year and a half, 2 years, I had a job that allowed me to watch football. Because you have to watch a lot of it to stay in line with what's going on with your favorite teams and stuff. I also remember that was the era when HD TV was just hitting the airwaves, 720p video on broadcast television. So you could actually see the games in this better quality, and I really enjoyed doing that at the time. So that was like 2-3 years we did that. And then after that, basically life caught up, got busy again with other jobs where I couldn't watch NFL anymore. And I basically just didn't care and kind of stopped doing the Super Bowl thing with my friends. We just didn't care anymore. So, but that was it. I mean, never really in my life was I a big Super Bowl guy who always got together for the Super Bowl or anything like that. No big deal. Second question, I think this is actually the last question. So it's almost March. We're about roughly halfway through February. The spring gaming season is upon us. Are you aware of any new releases? If so, what would you be interested in playing? How does it compare to 2024 with other springs in the past that had better games? Do you remember any fun spring game releases from earlier in your career when you were a younger gamer? Well, this year, the first real big release of the year, I think, is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the 29th of February. So technically, that's like right there at the beginning of March. And then if I remember correctly, March has Rise of Ronin, I think Dragon's Dogma 2, which I think are actually coming out on the same day. So those are two big ones. Outside of that, I'm not sure. What I really need to do is I should probably by the end of this month perhaps sit down and look at the gaming schedule again and see what's updated. Because we did that around the Christmas marathon, but it's been about a month and a half and I haven't really looked at it again. And now we probably have updated release dates and things. Because I'm curious what games you guys are interested in seeing me play. And, I have my ideas. Like I said, the 3 I just mentioned are probably the big 3 for me that are interesting coming up. But outside of those 3, I'm not really aware of many other games coming out. Now, some springs have been absolutely insane. I remember there's some years where we were so release heavy. Like, remember the year Elden Ring came out a couple years ago? And it was like Elden Ring, which was crazy. And then there was like a bunch of other releases that came out right after Elden Ring. And as I started playing them, people were like, no, just keep playing Elden Ring. And I was like, yeah, but Elden Ring's older now, so now I should play these newer games. And people were like so adamant that I keep playing Elden Ring instead of other games. There were entire weeks where every day stream was like Elden Ring, I remember. But some years are heavier than others. This year's kind of moderate, I would say. We're not super loaded with releases early on this year like some years. Although, you know, some of the games that are out right now are pretty good. Tekken 8's great. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is great. You got filler content in between those, but I think those are like the two big ones that have come out so far that have been pretty successful games so far this year. Of course, the shocking Pal World. Who even knew that game was coming out and was going to be any good? And now everyone's playing it, which is crazy to think. So, all right. Thank you for your questions. If you want to be part of that, if you become a super member of the channel, you get to ask those questions during the show during the week. Okay? Cool. All right. Now, without further ado, let's jump back into video submissions from the submissions level members who are put into this random order playlist. Let's see what's next. I was walking through the city. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch this. This is Lonely Island, which that was very, very popular over a decade ago. Now, no one talks about this shit anymore. But they were very popular on the internet. That's why 126 million views. But I'm curious, will this get claimed? Because this video, you know, is old. But, man, this has been put everywhere. And I wonder if it's even available to be watched on YouTube. Or if I'm doing this, I'm going to get blocked right away. So I'm actually kind of wait to see if there's, like, a reaction here. Here, let's go. We'll play a little more, and I'll pause again. Yeah, the guy's face. And by the way, they were both cast members on SNL at the time, right? Yeah. So far, no claim. I might be able to get through it. I've never seen this, by the way. I know of the Lonely Island, but I never really heard their music. If you can call this music. BlackBerry, did you see that shit? It's a fucking BlackBerry. 13 years ago, BlackBerry was still prominent. It wasn't until maybe like a decade ago that they basically like fell apart. Claimed. It just got claimed. I told you I knew this video would get claimed. I absolutely knew that was going to happen. Because that thing always constantly gets claimed. So, alright. Epic 211-shot badminton rally delights fans in Malaysia. I used to play badminton when I was a kid. Now, I didn't play it at any competitive level, but I used to play it in my driveway. We actually used to have a net, and we would play it up and down the driveway. And also in school, it was like a sport that we would do for gym. So this is the difference of the shuttlecock versus, say, what do you call it? The difference of a shuttlecock versus a tennis ball. A tennis ball is the same shape throughout. It's a uniform ball, and when you hit it, it'll maintain the same speed and the same like trajectory. Shuttlecocks are unique in that they have the weighted tip, but then the rest of it is shaped like a cone with mesh. So when you hit it, at first it gets momentum, but then the weight of the nose takes over. So basically it goes like this, and it always kind of arches downward after a limited space. So it's completely unique, and you need to learn how it actually floats around in order to hit it properly. You have to like bounce. You can't just clobber. Like in tennis, they kind of clobber the ball a lot. You can't clobber a shuttlecock. It won't work. You have to hit the tip at the right angle to bounce it back at a trajectory. It's very unique, and I liked playing this in the 90s or 80s and 90s when I was growing up with my dad and my cousin, and other kids would come from around the neighborhood, and we would all play this in our driveway with a net, and it was very fun. And it's also very athletic. You need to be very athletic. You need to be running a lot to get under that thing. Yeah, but I'm trying to see right now, because this is also The Guardian. I don't know if The Guardian will claim this video too. It still says, heads up, we've detected copywritten video. I'm waiting for this to clear up, and it hasn't yet. So I'm wondering if this also got claimed. I would like to see how it ends, but we might not be able to. If this is also getting claimed, and it doesn't seem to be clearing up, it just says warning. So I wonder if we have to go to the next video. You see, if I fast forward, they're still going. How long is this rally? Oh, there you go, look. I want to watch the end of it if we can to see how it ends. But it's called a shuttlecock. That's what it's actually called. The birdie or the shuttlecock is the thing that they're smacking all over the place there. It's so unique. Like I said, it's like a rubberized or plastic tip, and then it's like a cone going out, but the cone is made of mesh. So it's aerodynamic in that way. It's very unique. Yeah, it still says warning. I think we have to go to the next video. I don't think we can watch the end of this. It sucks. I want to see how the rally ends, but I think the Guardian videos get claimed. Oh, no, it says excellent connection. All right, let's see how it ends. Let's go quick. That was from 8 months ago, so it was in the last year. Pretty crazy. You could tell how completely destroyed they were after the 3 constant minutes without a break between. They were all dead.
Here is my tiny chunk of the ocean.
Oh, this guy again?
It has coral, starfish, a sea cucumber, and even hermit crabs.
Hello.
Today, I'm going to show you step by step how I built this tank. My goal is to prove to you that reef keeping can be simple and done on a budget. So, let's get...
Well, now it says, warning, heads up, we detected... Oh, you know what? It was that Guardian video. It was getting claimed. But because I paused it, it cleared up. And then it got claimed again. This one can't be getting claimed. I don't think so.
Straight into the build.
If it is,
For this
if the stream goes down, that's what's happening. It's getting claimed. It'll come back in 3 minutes, but I don't think it's this video. I think it was the Guardian
I'll be using
video.
a 3-gallon tank, a filter, light, and heater. That is all the hardware you're gonna need. The tank that you choose isn't all that important, but I wouldn't go below 3 gallons. That's the size I'm using, but you can always go bigger. For water movement, I'm using a canister filter. These are great because they are very, very quiet. The light I'm using is a basic gooseneck, which is inexpensive and great quality. Total win. And finally, the last piece of equipment is the heater. It may be tiny, but it packs a punch. And to clarify, there are links to everything I used in the description below. Alright, now onto the rock work. The majority of corals cannot...
I wonder how many people watch a video like this and then try to replicate it for themselves, right?
...grow on sand and actually need a solid surface in order to grow. Here's where the rock comes in. These are called Marco rocks, and they come from Florida. They are super easy to build with, and I stack them on top of each other. In my experience, it's easier to stack the rocks outside the tank rather than inside. I stack them on a piece of cardboard on my desk. To prevent the rocks from collapsing, I use some super glue. This is completely safe for fishing coral as it dries inert. I sprinkle some rock dust over the glue in order to hide it. The final structure was full of holes and arches, providing a lot of surface area for coral and future animals. Now, the whole scape was pretty dusty, so I brought it outside to hose it down. I wanted to make sure the rocks were clean before I added them into the tank. Otherwise, the water may become cloudy. After washing them off, I carefully placed the finished hardscape into the tank. I also clipped on the light so I can get an idea of how everything was going to look. Perfect. The tank was finally coming together, and now it was ready for the heater. I started by placing the heater in the back of the tank. I squeezed it behind all the rock work to make sure it stays hidden. From the front of the tank, it is completely invisible and you wouldn't even know it's there. So now, I was ready to add in the sand. The sand I'm using is called live sand. Basically, it is packaged in salt water and it has already been colonized with all kinds of beneficial bacteria. I take the sand and carefully add it to the tank. I aim for a layer that's between 1 to 2 inches thick. I like to go a little heavy on the sand, but it is really up to you. With that all in place, it was time to set up the filter. I began by building the intake and output. It was just a matter of snapping the pieces together. On the canister filter itself, I removed the lid and placed sponges in the first 2 sections. I also poured in salt water so I can add established media from another reef tank of mine. The filter was looking pretty good, but I wanted to add one more thing. I placed in a small bag of carbon, which is great for any fish tank in general. It can remove impurities and toxins that may find their way into the water. Now, with that in place, I could close off the lid and move on to the final step.
So this is not a typical filter. He kind of did some custom stuff with the filter himself, rather than just what you would standard put in there. This is a saltwater tank. I've heard that saltwater tank is really, really hard to do, so I'm curious how he does it.
I placed the intake and output onto the tank. I connected them to a filter with some hosing, and then the tank was ready for water. I slowly filled it up, but it immediately became a cloudy mess. Don't worry if this happens to you, and it is completely normal. So I plugged in the filter, and at first, it sprayed out a bunch of air bubbles. After about a minute, the filter was working perfectly, and the bubbles were gone. Because the tank was so cloudy, I let it run overnight to clear up. The following morning, the tank looked crystal clear.
Wow, nice.
I was really happy with the way it turned out, and now it was time for the coral. I carefully cut open their packaging. One by one, I placed them in the aquarium.
Live coral.
I wanted to work quickly, so I didn't get it all on film. Corals are very...
Innominate says, a saltwater tank is a part-time job. Damn. Really?
Sensitive, and they've already been through a lot of stress while shipping. In addition to the corals, I added in some macroalgae. Macroalgae is the saltwater equivalent to a plant. They will act as a nutrient sponge and soak up most of the nasties in an aquarium. Here's how the tank looked the following day. Many of the corals looked amazing
Nice.
as they waved in the
They
current.
came out.
The most amazing thing to me is the way they eat. Here, I'm feeding one of the corals some phytoplankton. It is just so awesome to watch. Many of you are probably wondering the care for a tank like this. Well, the upkeep is actually pretty minimal. When water evaporates, I top it off with some distilled water. I also feed the corals once every week or so, but that's it. To be honest, I don't even do water changes. I have done 0 since I set up the tank, and it has been running for over 2 months now. There were now all kinds of animals in the tank. Many of you are probably wondering how the tank is doing so well without any water changes. Well, I rely on the heavy amount of macroalgae to suck up all the waste in the water. If you want to learn more about these and all the animals, please do me a solid and like this video.
That's a cool
because
crab.
the algorithm doesn't usually like videos like these. If this video does well, I will definitely make an update on this video in the future. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
So, I mean, that's interesting, but I wonder, he says he doesn't change the water out. I wonder how long are you supposed to go before you change the water in a tank like that? I don't know. I'm not an aquarium guy. My wife and I have been interested in maybe getting fish at some point in our lives here, but we just keep hearing about how annoying it costs a lot of money to set it up, and then it's a lot of upkeep. It's like, that's not what we're looking for, you know? Anyway, that was interesting. Interesting video. Okay.
In the late 2000s, 2 companies took over the world of sports, only to get sued, having to repay customers millions of dollars for allegedly selling a product that did nothing. Yet thousands of athletes not only used them, they loved them and swore by them. Alex Rodriguez, David Beckham, Ronaldo, Bryce Harper, Robert De Niro, Lindsay Lohan, and even Bill Clinton all wore these.
They're all
woman
dumbasses.
from Canada, not even knowing what it was, had her chronic pain from 2 wrist surgeries completely disappear after putting one of these on. It healed Clint Hurdle's elbow pain, and after battling neck pain 4 years, Kurt Schilling said he put one of these on and hadn't felt a stiff neck since. And all the people I just mentioned.
You want to talk about ultra placebo shit, right? I mean, come on. Ultra placebo. People are so dumb.
Didn't get paid to wear or say any of those things. Millions of people wore necklaces and bracelets said to be fueled by a nanotechnology operating at a subatomic level in the quantum field using a hologram that is so complex it has infinite depth. When in contact with your body, it uses your bioelectrical energy to increase your physiological powers. These claims come from several different explanations of power balance, found on archived versions of their website spanning from 2007 to 2009. When these claims were made, nobody had ever even heard of them. A few years later, pretty much every single athlete in the world would be wearing their product, but at the time, a completely different company was dominating the space. Fighting necklaces were a phenomenon, originally created in the 80s by a Japanese chiropractor / holistic medicine practitioner. They transformed from a line of magnetic tape, clothing, and even shampoo into a necklace. According to Fightin', the secret ingredient was aqua titanium. According to archived versions of their website, they discovered a groundbreaking technology that for the first time ever could make the metal titanium dissolvable into water. They called it aqua titanium and claimed when worn on the body could penetrate a person's muscles and increase their health levels.
How does that even make sense? It's you melt, even if you did dilute metal into water, how exactly would that penetrate your body without going into like your bloodstream? Or like, what are you talking about? God, it just goes to show that some of the people who are the most popular rich people on the planet could also be some of the dumbest possible to fall for something dumb like this.
From a scientific perspective, this was controversial. But after years, Fightin' finally found their target market. Baseball was perfect for a product like Fightin', a sport that is obsessed with superstitions that make absolutely
no sense. It already had
no
superstitions.
Sense. Turk Wendell would brush his teeth in between innings every single inning because he thought it made him better at baseball. The Yankees in 2009 were convinced a golden thong had powers, so when a player got into a slump, they would wear a golden thong that the entire team shared. And even though Mark McGwire went from this size in high school to being 6'5", 245 pounds, he wore the exact same cup he had in high school his entire major league career. He thought that helped him hit home runs.
Right.
So the idea that a necklace filled with liquid metal could somehow help on the field performance wasn't even really that crazy. The notion that they would create a multi-million-dollar industry.
I had no idea that's what those were.
crazy.
I've seen those, and I had no idea that's what those necklaces were. Wow.
Fightin' necklace first gained traction in professional baseball in Japan. The story goes that Randy Johnson is the origin of fightin' coming to America. He discovered them while playing in an MLB vs. MPB exhibition in Japan in 2000, then brought them to MLB,
I remember Randy
where they
Johnson.
slowly spread until the 2004 Red Sox. Kurt Schilling was supposed to be out for the playoffs with an ankle injury, then got an experimental ankle surgery invented by a Red Sox trainer. He became the first person ever to receive this surgery and didn't do it in a hospital. He got this experimental surgery inside the Red Sox training room the day before he had to pitch in the ALCS, leaving his ankle looking like this. This became the biggest story in sports as millions of people watched Schilling shut down the Yankees as the cameras obsessed over his bloody sock, zooming in and showing it any chance they got throughout the entire game. And all these cameras fixated on Schilling also picked up his brand new Fightin' necklace, exposing this new product to millions. In fact, multiple Red Sox in 2004 wore Fightin' as they went on one of the most infamous runs in baseball history to break the curse of the Bambino.
Yeah, I remember
this
that.
was the
That's
beginning
right.
of a marketing
They won.
breakthrough for Fightin'. In 2005, usage in MLB exploded. Over 200 MLB players were wearing Fightin', and Fightin' wasn't even paying them. Players genuinely liked them. Jose Lopez said he felt happier when wearing it. Andy Chavez said he thought he had more energy when he was wearing it.
And it's
Mariners
all
outfielder
placebo
Chris
effect.
Snelling, who was battling wrist pain, said he would wear these at night and wake up with no wrist pain whatsoever. All of a sudden, Fightin' was getting tens of millions of dollars worth of free exposure from major leaguers who loved wearing them and genuinely believed in them. The first month of the season in 2005, Fightin' sold 3,500 necklaces in America. By August,
So basically, this next company is the copier. I want to go to the other company that they started talking about. Not Fightin', but the next one. The bracelets. Here it is.
balance was. But in 2008, Matt Stafford, Mark Sanchez, and Colt McCoy all wore Power Balance bracelets the entire year, two of which were featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated wearing Power Balance.
Wow.
Just like Fightin', they were getting millions of dollars in free promotion and making extremely strong claims, except these claims were much crazier. According to archived versions of their site from 2007 to 2009, Power Balance says they could use vibrations to stimulate red blood cells and improve the communication between your cells. Your bioelectrical energy power would work with the Power Balance hologram to strengthen life-enhancing information. The hologram, they say, was made by a proprietary sonic formula only known to them, which required photonic engineering that converted sonic waves into light. And people wearing them often felt better balance, strength, flexibility,
What
and
on
range of
earth?
motion. It's safe to say.
It's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's fucking Star Trek shit, right? What on earth are you talking about? And people believed it with no evidence at all. They just started using it, huh? No, the audio didn't drop, right? Everything's good, guys? Everyone can still hear me? Everything's fine. I don't see any notice on my end that anything went wrong. So everything's still good with the stream? Yeah, I mean, this is insane. And these are professional athletes. Again, it seems to me like these professional athletes believe these weird superstitions, and it just transferred over to these products that then made all these people rich off of what? Of a piece of rubber, right? A piece of freaking rubber. You're insane. These people are nuts.
Say most scientists probably wouldn't agree with that. But these claims were made at the infancy of the company. By the time people actually started buying them, they were no longer on the website. They didn't make sense, but they didn't trick anyone because nobody read it. The thing that did convince people to buy Power Balance was this. The Power Balance test put people through a series of balance tests, then immediately redid the same test with the Power Balance bracelet on, and almost without fail, the person would perform significantly better with the Power Balance on. It could be done anywhere, so anytime someone wearing a Power Balance receives skepticism for wearing it, they could just immediately put the doubter through the test, who almost always had better results with the Power Balance on. This became one of the most effective marketing tools imaginable. All of a sudden, in bars, in schools, and parties across the country, this fun party trick was converting countless numbers of people into believers in Power Balance. The test is almost certainly a psychological trick that doesn't hold up when the subject is blinded and doesn't know if they have the Power Balance on or not. But when the subject knows they are wearing the Power Balance, immediately after not wearing it, it works extremely well. All of a sudden, random people not being paid by Power Balance swore by it. A restaurant owner told the OC Register that he began wearing the Power Balance and started having energy levels he never had in his life.
It's full placebo effect. And also, here's the other thing. If they're like, okay, just stand here and try to balance on one leg. Well, I'm not used to doing this. Let me do it. So you do it poorly. Okay, so now I'm going to put this bracelet on you. Try again. Well, now you're doing it a second time. You're going to do better the second time than the first. You just did it wrong, so now you're going to try to make adjustments to do it better. So, of course, the second attempt, you're going to do better than the first time you've tried something. So, of course, it's better. Oh, that's because we put the bracelet on you. No, it's not. All right. Anyway, guys, great video. It's entertaining as heck. Informative. Of course, I don't know if this stuff even exists anymore. But it is time to end this part and have one more. All right, so thank you all for watching DSP versus the Internet, episode 51, part 6, the finale, coming next. Thanks for watching. See you then.